We're gonna start off with, what's your name?
My name is Faralan.
And you are from?
I'm from Oak Harbor, Washington, about 2 hours north of Seattle. It's a little Navy base, classic Filipino story.
Then how did you end up in Seattle?
Yeah, my mom really wanted me to go to college. I also just thought that was kind of how I was raised, that was the next step. After high school was to go to college. So UW was my first choice, and my mom also didn't graduate from, the highest graduation was high school, and so she was just really excited for me to go to UW, and I ended up here in Seattle in 2011.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, yes.
How did your family end up in Oak Harbor?
Yeah. So my dad was in the military. He was EOD, and I don't know what that means. But I know that he worked in the water, in submarines, on ships, and he basically took us as his last deployment to Oak Harbor. And I grew up there for most of my life, but I also lived in San Diego. I was born in Virginia Beach, so another very classic military story.
Yeah. So what did you study in college?
I studied business. I double optioned in marketing and entrepreneurship, and then I also had a diversity minor.
So what do you do now for a living?
What I do now is I work at this really rad social justice nonprofit called Powerful Voices. It's been around for 23 years, and we basically do programming for young girls of color in Seattle. So that's employment programs, we're in schools where we teach about healthy relationships, and then we also have summer programs that are around art and media creation, and it's really rad work. But because of my business background, I am the communications and community engagement coordinator, so I get to basically do all of our branding, our marketing. I control all of our social media, and then also curate all of our external events and partnerships.
What was your aha moment that made you want to get into social justice and that line of work?
Yeah, I call it very lovingly the very classic Asian cultural renaissance that most Asian Americans have. But that moment for me was, so my family on the Faralan side at least has a family reunion every other year, which I think is such a blessing, that we're able to get together across different countries every other year. But I think my senior year of high school, I went to one of them, and my titos were just drinking and talking and reminiscing about their lives, and they were just very casually talking about how my great-grandfather survived the Bataan Death March in World War II. And I was like, what is that? And that sounds really, really intense. And it was, right? Basically American and Filipino prisoners of war were sent by the Japanese during Japanese occupation to literally march hella miles to a hard labor camp where they were there for about 3 years. They were tortured, and they were sent to do hard labor, and my great-grandfather survived that. That was nothing that I had ever known about my own history, and also I was in AP Gov, never learned about that in my history books. That was never part of U.S. history, the U.S. history that I was taught, at least.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was some kind of injustice there about my history being erased. And so I knew that when I went to college, I wanted to really reclaim that and really try and deeply understand what it meant to be Filipino in the United States, at least. So then from there, I obviously joined FASA once I got to UW. And then also I was introduced to Anakba in Seattle that year. So I was kind of getting a mix of both like very social justice, like very politically driven Filipino identity, and then like a social and cultural side of what Filipino means. And then, yeah, here I am. I just kind of merged from then on out, and kind of where I'm at now. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to do that for our members too. Just educate. I think it all starts with education a little bit, and that's crazy
Agreed.
to think that history was only like a couple generations older than us, and we have no idea about it.
That's so real. That's so real. I mean, I think also there's something about Filipino identity that has been. I mean, we talk a lot about the colonial mentality in like normal or like in mainstream social justice spaces, but it's so real. Like our parents don't talk about it because of this deep embedded like shame or this really internalized idea that like this is normal. Like it's normal to be traumatized. It's normal to just like go through really hard shit. Like it's really normal to be around military bases with like high militarization all the time, you know. So
and it's hard because it hurts the mental health of our community.
Absolutely.
To just internalize all this shit and you know.
Totally.
Awesome. That is definitely going into a video for sure. What are some issues you are tackling today or feel passionate about? We kind of touched on this earlier.
Yeah. So right now, I am the chairperson of Anakbayan in Seattle, and that's a role that I hold really like. I'm like very honored to hold because Anakbayan Seattle is an overseas chapter of Anakbayan in the Philippines. I think that's something that people don't know, is that Anakbayan started and still is in the Philippines, and there are hundreds of chapters all over the Philippines right now. And Seattle was the first U.S. chapter for Anakbayan. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that wild? And we've been around for like, we're having our Sweet 16 this year. And so a lot of the things that we fight for we're also a youth and student movement, I think is really specific, because there's so much that young people and students in particular have to contribute to revolution, to like movements. And some of the things that we're fighting for are directly from the Philippines, like from people on the ground fighting for basic human rights. So some of our campaigns right now are to stop the killings. Right now, the U.S. Duterte administration has what we actually know very, very well in the U.S. as a drug war, but we also know it as a war on poor people. Here in the United States, the drug war is a war on poor Black Americans, right? And in the Philippines, the drug war is a war on poor Filipinos. And quite literally, the Duterte administration is murdering Filipinos for even possessing or knowing about drugs, which is really dark and like a really punitive way to address systems and address poverty. And so currently the death toll under the drug war is over 20,000 people. It's an enormous amount of people to be just gone in just 2 years too. So one of our calls for NFI in Seattle is to stop the killings, and being youth and students, knowing that like youth are usually the most militant and like ready to fight and like
hit the streets.
Yeah, hit the streets, literally, yeah. We also have joined the call to oust Duterte, like to literally pull him from office, because we see him as now we see him in these past 2 years as a fascist dictator. We see him as worse than Marcos during martial law. And so those are two of the campaigns, to oust Duterte and to stop the killings. So a campaign is basically like something that is guiding us in whatever we do. But we're more than just like doing protests on the streets. We're more than just like protesting at, for instance, Boeing. Or marching on the streets for May Day or International Working Women's Day, you know. What we actually really want to do is build deeply with Filipino people. So, you know, we go to like FASA events if we can. We just want to see what things are happening for Filipinos here in the U.S. And then see how we can address those issues, whether it be like really hella high tuition at UW, you know, it is, and or like figuring out how to have more affordable housing for Filipinos in the South End, you know. We just want to link with our kababayan here and then figure out how to meet those needs in the best way that we can. We also really like to just like what we call agitate, but it's really what you were talking about in providing education. So what that means is we put on educational discussions, basically just workshops about like Filipino identity and consciousness, the labor export policy, Filipino migration and immigration, you know, things like that. We have a lot of really incredible learnings from the Philippines, like directly from the Philippines, that we want to spread to Filipinos here. So we put on workshops. We also like to have cultural nights, and those are, it's basically like different versions of Phil Night, like what we see in the Philippines. Organizers can be cultural workers, which means that your art is made for the movement. And so we have a lot of places, or we have a lot of artists or cultural workers that are really, really rad, and we want to highlight those people. So we put on basically like open mic nights or like programmed cultural nights. Yeah. And I know like Malaya just had one in the past couple of months. That was really beautiful, about Stop the Killings too. Did you go to that?
I think I was.
Yeah, it was like
at the Southside Commons.
Yes, that one
was awesome.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. Yeah. It was so beautiful. So things like that, really just wanting to spread awareness in a way that is accessible to people, you know? Yeah.
So our like word of the year for FASA is cuento.
Oh.
Like, do you know what that means in Tagalog?
No.
It means
but
storytelling. So
that's what cuento means?
Yeah.
I was thinking something else. Okay.
I'm excited because I'm taking that word to heart because I want to get like your story and everyone else's story, and just educate our members, and then, you know, just reclaim our history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
just a little side piece I want to share.
No, I love that. I love that. I feel like Filipinos are naturally storytellers anyways. And a lot of our histories are like oral, like it's just like passed down by like telling these stories at, like, for instance, a family reunion or at the dinner table or whatever. Yeah.
It's not written in our textbooks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we rely so much on oral history.
Yeah. That's so rad. I'm excited.
Me too. That's why we are documenting this. What advice would you give college students regarding community and activism?
Yeah. College students specifically?
Or just students in general?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that in Western education, it can be really hard to learn about ourselves. And so I think the role of someone in higher education is to like dig a little bit deeper, and to really unearth the truths that our people have been like trying to push forth forever, for like literally 500 years. And I think there's so much opportunity to do that, especially when you're in a city with so much Filipinx activism history. it can be difficult. There are definitely lots of barriers, like in terms of like literally meeting up with people, or like intergenerational barriers. But the history is rich, and it's here. It's just about taking a couple extra steps, like you're doing, and meeting up with all of these different people to really figure out what the truths are. And then second, for like, as we know, youth have always been at the forefront of revolutions. Like the Black Panthers were literally like 19, 20-year-olds. Like, yeah, it literally, right? And so I think there's like so much that young people, even though like 19, 20 may not seem like young people in the sense of like 18 and under, but young folks are so powerful, have so much energy, have so much like militancy, have so much like physical energy to be out on the streets, to be going places that like elders can't go, you know. And so youth and students have a very important role to play in movements. And also like young people can like take in hella information and be able to like regurgitate it in really cool ways. Like right now with the internet and like,
oh yeah,
we're able to like spread the word so much easier because we have the tools. Like our elders didn't. So I think that's also like our role as young folks, is to just like spread the word, is to really just learn, soak it in, analyze it, critique it, and then spread what we believe the truths are, and then to like get out there and like do something. Yeah.
It's crazy. The youth is so underestimated, and it's hard feeling discredited for being young, but
always
just have so much to bring to the table. It's awesome.
Yeah, agreed. Completely agreed. I think that, so something also that I do at my work, Powerful Voices, really believes in being anti-adultist and like anti-ageist. And it's kind of a gray area for like young 20-year-olds or like young 19. Yeah. But there's so much that systems do to oppress young people. Like people under 18 literally can't vote. Like there's all of these sayings about like you'll learn when you're older, or like it's just a phase. But young people have the resiliency already in their young years to really, really survive and like internalize a lot of really both beautiful and like hard things. So I think we underestimate young people all the time, and it's time that like we start overestimating ourselves and like just like really do the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Awesome. Oh yeah. Last question.
Okay.
Where do you think you fall in the history of Latinx activism?
Oh yeah, this is the hard question. When I saw you put, when I saw the questions, it's not. So I see myself as like one of many, because movements aren't done just by yourself. You know, it's never led by just one person. There are so many people fighting, like in the background, in the underground. And I think like as a chairperson, I have a responsibility to be the face of Anakbai in Seattle, but also there's so many rad people doing this work, and I just have the honor of being able to like talk to you and be in front of a camera to do it. But I think that I'm just like one of many in this very important and pivotal time in Filipino history, actually, to really. We've come face to face with two fascist people in the literal head of office, Trump and Duterte. And as like Filipinos in the U.S., I believe that it's our right and our duty to resist both of them. And it's scary, and also it's what's necessary if we really want to be for the people and be for our people and be for people everywhere.